Welcome to The Sample, a quick discussion of auditing concepts and terms that will help you do your work. Conducting an audit in accordance with auditing standards is no small feat, and I want to support you. We'll be referring to the GAO, IIA, and AICPA literature to bolster our conversations. Let's get started. In this episode, we answer the question, how do I educate my clients about internal controls? I was recently teaching the COSO model, the Green Book, at a conference for auditors. So talking about internal controls, and one of the auditors asked a brilliant question. He said, how do I teach my auditees about internal controls? Because they think that the auditor is responsible for internal controls, and I'm trying to explain, no, you're responsible for internal controls. So I regularly teach full day sessions to lay people who are not auditors, on internal controls. And I've learned a few things about how to approach the topic with lay people, and I'm going to share those with you right now. A few key things. First of all, you do not show them the COSO model until late in the day. If you start off the day showing them this model, they tend to flip out and become overwhelmed. Just like we did the first time we saw it as auditors. We're going like, oh, look at that thing. So do not show this until after you've done some explaining, until after you've actually kind of sold them on why controls are important. What I do, here's another thing you don't show them. Don't show them these 17 principles until much later. Again, too much granularity. What I do is I start with a more personal example. Sometimes I start with my experience in eating in various restaurants. Sometimes I start with teaching my daughters how to drive and making sure they stay safe. And we just brainstorm controls and we talk about that. And that gives me an entree to talk about risk. Now, the COSO model actually starts, the top of the cube actually starts with control environment. I don't go there first. I go with risk first. Risk is why we have controls. And it gets people engaged and they care. If I start with control environment, it's too academic. It's too theoretical. But everybody can really understand risk. Death, injury, shame, loss of money, missed goals. And we talk about that in relationship to my kids driving or whatever example I've got. And they can also understand the concepts of magnitude and likelihood. And now they're thinking, wow, what kind of risks am I tolerating in my organization or in my personal life on a regular basis? And they're kind of hooked. And they're like, okay, I understand why we have controls. Controls make sure that bad things don't happen. And then if I'm really, feeling like they can tolerate it, I'll use the word mitigate with them. That controls mitigate risk. And they're like, okay, they're in. Now I take one of their examples, like their world, and I say, okay, what kind of risks are you tolerating in your organization? And now they're really interested. And that gives me a chance to walk them through the components of the model. Now, depending on the audience, I still may have not shown them the COSO model, but we began with risk assessment. I'll walk them through applying control activities, walk them through imagining what kind of reports and information they need to generate, walk them through the question about monitoring, like how are you going to make sure that everything you've designed here is working as you intended. And the last thing I talk about is control environment. And that we might not have even looked at the model at all together yet. But now, after we've got an inventory of all these controls, then I can come back to them and I can say, look, You applied controls in these 5 layers. Aren't you brilliant? And they go, oh, yeah, that's so great. Oh my gosh, I didn't even know. And then it's like, yeah, that's the model. And they go, oh, that's, and then everybody's happy. And then I will come back around and do another example. You may know that Chipotle had a foodborne illness issue. Gosh, it's probably been about 10 years ago. But famously, they applied buku controls to keep it from ever happening again. And I use it as a review of controls. So again, just make it real to them. Hold off with all the lingo, obscures the meaning of the COSO model, and your main goal is for them not to spout the lingo back to you, but to create controls that are strong. And that wraps it up for another episode of The Sample. True to the nature of a sample, we didn't talk about everything, so you've probably got questions. Write to me at Leita@Yellowbook-CPE.com, and I'll do my best to fill in the blanks. Thanks for playing.